Last time on Rettals Pub.
About tribal and spiritual practice and physical practice reminds me of the author we used to read, Jack Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of that same philosophy. Great author, by the way.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Bring it around.
So I'm going to bring it around. So I'm going to bring it around and say this. I think heathenry is the answer.
I agree with that.
Because heathenry brings you closer to the land.
Yes.
And while you may not hug a tree, you certainly worship Brother Tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you certainly take care of your land. You take care of the things that are the closest to you, and that's where you put your hands in the soil, feet on the ground. I mean, you start looking. So if I'm really going down that path of heathenry, or even if we want to take heathenry off the table as far as a label and just call it taking care of the land, you know, then you become like, I think it was the Native Americans that said, "This is not my land. I borrow this from those who come behind me."
Here are your hosts, Nate and Mason.
Well, Russell Means, it's funny that you bring that up. Me and you chatted briefly this week about Russell Means. Russell Means was a great influence on my, I don't know what to call it, just the spiritual aspect of land, right? Is that earth is alive. It is in and of itself a living, breathing being. And therefore we would not pollute, or we should not pollute our neighbor, right? We should not spit on our neighbor. We should not pour oil on our neighbor. We should not pollute our neighbor, right? Then why do we feel confident? If that's a moral objective, to harm my neighbor, then why is it not an objective? Why are we harming the organism on which gives us life and sustenance?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And so, you know, I start looking at that. Anyway, let me go back to the heathenry, not heathenry thing. You know, when you start looking at it and you pull away from this consumerist Christianity or consumerist politics, whether it's right or left, I'm sorry, but I don't care if you're the same coin. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. You're a consumer of some sort. So don't be bitching at me about my capitalist beliefs from your cell phone that you used capitalism to obtain.
Slave labor.
Yeah, exactly, slave labor. And I'm not complaining. I'm not mad. I got an Android over here. You know, I just wish we'd get rid of all of it, to be honest with you. But and that's an IT guy saying that. The problem is that when you've lost touch of land, mm-hmm. of putting your soul into the land, you know, there's proof that if you have blood disorders, not all of them, but I know there's been some proof of various blood disorders, that if you take your shoes off and just go stand on the ground for 15 minutes, you literally recharge your body.
Yeah. Which I've been doing that recently.
And it clears up inflammation.
Yep.
It clears up a lot of things. And this is scientific proof to prove it. There's a guy that I can't remember his name, but you can find him on YouTube. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the show notes. But he will take a meter of some sort that measures electricity, and he will put it on someone who's wearing tennis shoes, and it doesn't transfer anything. But you take your shoes off and put them straight on the ground, and all of a sudden you have flow of electricity from the earth through your body. Yeah. And they take blood tests. There was an older lady that they took a blood test before and after, and it was like 15 minutes mm-hmm. later, mm-hmm. and her blood was completely different from before and after, and she was able to move better. Yeah. In the second one. So, you know, you can't remove spirituality from physicality.
You can't.
And so when you start looking at that, the hope I have is that people go back to the land, mm-hmm. and they don't run to the smart cities that have full control. This dystopian look. I mean, what's the show on Sci-Fi that was, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a bunch of these cities that are in the sky. You know, and it's you know, it's space related. I can't think of the name of it. I can see the picture of it, but I can't think of the name of it. You know, Star Trek. You know, that sort of thing where everybody lives in the cities. Nobody lives out in the boonies because, you know, you have to use cars which use gas.
Yeah.
but it also removes, where does our food come from? Well, now they're growing it in vats. Well, why do I want to eat that? Well, if we're 2 generations down and nobody knows any different, what are they going to do?
Right.
And so you start looking at all that stuff. The hope is, my hope, the hope that I think will come out of this, or that will come, is that you will have pockets of people who will come together, and it will be very much like it was 150 years ago, where you have these small pockets of people who come together, even if they don't like each other sometimes, but they're a community and they take care of one another. Yeah. And we have to get out of, and I'm an individualist, I've always been that way, I am who I am, but I'm starting to become more of the understanding that as an individual, I am not as powerful as I am if I am one piece in a mechanized wheel of a small, dedicated, very niche community that is just like me, where my talents are used most effectively, and it's not watered down by shoving me in a whole group of people who have the same talents as I do.
Right.
Where my talents are this, that, and the other, and your talents are completely different than mine, but they balance mine out. That's the hope, is that we begin to become more of a community, and not through the internet, face to face, around a table, eating the same food, drinking the same wine, talking the same stories, laughing at the same jokes, loving each other. I mean, that's the hope.
It's a pub mentality.
Yeah, which is kind of
pub mentality.
I mean, I hadn't thought of it that way, but that when I look at that, yes, I go back to the Viking shows where they're all in the Great Hall, and they're all laughing and joking and having a good time, and they're laughing and they're a little bit inebriated and they're saying stuff. And to me, that community, because when they're awake and when they're out working, they all have their own talents that they focus in on, and it becomes more about this. Your individuality is more prominent in a community where you give to that community as a whole, your whole self to that community, spiritually, physically, mentally. You give yourself wholly to that community with your talent, and your talent becomes greater and more important than if you water it down by homogenized Christianity, where everybody dresses a certain way, looks a certain way, and let's not even pick on Christianity, where you're a Republican and you only do this, this, and this, where you're Democrat and you only do this, this, and this. Find a place where your talents are going to be.
Well, the kingdom of nothing, I always consider the kingdom of nothing. The government is the kingdom of nothing. Civilization or society is right now. The American society is the kingdom of nothing. It's an illusion. It's all fake.
The empire of nothing. Yeah.
The empire of nothing. The kingdom of nothing, to me, says it's okay for you to be spiritual. We want you to be spiritual. But here's the guidelines in which it's more effective to be spiritual. And then you have bullet points. Now, as long as you commit to these community guidelines, you can be heathen. But we still need to abide as a group.
Yeah.
We need to abide by community guidelines. So the kingdom of nothing comes in and goes, you can be Buddhist, you can be Christian, you can be heathen, you can be whatever you want to be. But as long as you fit within the guidelines, you can be whatever you want. And then when you start breaking out the old text, and you learn that those guidelines are not guidelines.
Yeah, they're control.
It's control.
It's the matrix.
It's the matrix.
I mean, we'll talk about that a lot, but that's and I know we're not really any kind of spirituality. I mean, we kind of are, kind of aren't. I tend to combine it all into a single thing. So,
because right now, for me, I'm studying Wiccan right now, and that's a beautiful practice, absolute beautiful practice, witchcraft. I'm studying Native American spirituality, right? Which has got a common thread, but it's a beautiful practice. But we cannot compromise the purity of that practice for the sake of those who have We cannot compromise the purity of the spirituality by the majority of the ignorant. The majority of the ignorant would come in and say, we're the kingdom of nothing and here's the guidelines. We cannot compromise the purity of a spiritual practice for the sake of ignorant, logical atheist. When I say atheist, I mean people who have no concept of a spiritual practice. And their concept of a spiritual practice is within the governmental guidelines.
Which is in itself a spiritual practice.
True.
Not necessarily a good one, but it's their own religion. I mean, that's the reason why...
It's diabolical.
Yeah. It's you know, you look at... And I'm just going to go down
that. Did that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, it did. So when you start looking at that, it's the question is that... That's so if I'm looking at physicality again, I'm actually starting an exercise program this week, you know, and I'm not saying that to brag. I'm actually starting something.
Bragging?
Yeah, shut up. I'm actually starting that this week. Why am I doing that? Because I think that it's going to come down to not just suffering and going through these things that I have to go through, and I'm not that I want it to happen, but I'm not afraid of it happening.
Correct.
But I've got to build my body to a point that it is going to last me as long as I need to. So if it comes down to, let's say it comes down to you will conform or die.
Death.
Then well, I'm not just going to give up. You're going to have to come for me.
Right.
You know,
right.
I'm not just going to go over there.
I'm tired of the bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the conforming.
Yeah.
And one of the passions that I have is I am tired, and the reason why I attack Christianity so hard, even though I don't consider myself a Christian, because I'm not that.
Yeah.
But I do practice the teachings of Jesus. I do believe the gospel.
It Mahatma Gandhi that says, I love Jesus, I just don't like his followers very much. Yeah.
And what I am sick of, to the point of ad nauseum, to the point of vomiting, is that how the Christian community has joined hands and created the Holy Roman Empire again. And evangelicalism has joined hands with our government and is dictating what's the word I'm looking for? Co-joining guidelines for us to comply to.
Yeah.
Because rest assured that when President Trump was in office and they called for us to go lockdown, right? Churches were like, you know, we got to do it, right? We've got to do this, and it's for the better, right? But rest assured, if this new lockdown comes in, you're going to guarantee to see the evangelical movement like fight against it because, you know, their man isn't in office. And then it becomes, well, this is a demonic and spiritual attack against the church. I am sick of evangelicalism holding hands with the empire of nothing and thinking that it's beneficial.
Well, I would go as far as to say that you're not going to like this one too much.
Throw it, man. That's why we're having a dialogue.
I'm of the mind that the Roman Empire never went away.
Correct.
It became the Catholic Church.
Yes.
And so now I see that happening with the evangelicals.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have some sort of unification to where the Christianity that is that will come out on top. Now, I could be wrong. It could be Revelations and they all die. But I don't know. The question is who are the real Christians? Who are the real spiritual people?
I think the real Christians, the authentic, what I like to call the authentic Christians.
I guess I should use real seem to really rather rude.
Authentic Christians are the ones that are at home when nobody knows and they're reading their scripture or they're saying their prayers. And they may go to church. They may not. But the authentic Christians are the ones that have established an authentic, effective spiritual practice with God, and they don't give a flying fuck what organized institutional Christianity says, does, or is involved in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the if we're going back to that, I mean, that's where I see we're headed. The hope is that people see it for what it is. I think what's going to happen is, I think a large majority of people are not going to, not just Christians, are not going to abide by another lockdown.
No, they're not. They're already tired of it.
They're not going to.
Even the liberals are getting tired of it.
Yeah. So I think, I don't think it's going to happen to an extent. On sometimes I worry about it because I'm afraid that it's going to be violent. Because, well, if we're going to politics, as an anarchist, the government is only good at one thing, and that's killing people.
Yeah, it's killing people. It is true.
It's using violence against the innocent, the weak, the downtrodden. And they're not opposed to using it. And also, as an anarchist, I think what we're seeing, here's some hope for you too. I think what we're seeing is, an animal right before it dies, it's the most violent it ever is because it's clinging to that idea of life, the death throes of life. Mm-hmm. I think should they do something like that, you'll start seeing the death throes of all governments.
Yeah.
And the concern is that's hopeful on one hand because it signifies that there's a change in how things are going to be ran. It signifies the chokehold that Vanguard, through the blessing of government, has on Duke's age, which is completely evil. I have a friend of mine who's invested into BlackRock, and we were talking, and I didn't know that.
That stuff happens to people like me and you.
Yeah.
We don't know about it. We're just gonna throw a bunch of stuff out.
So I threw out, and I literally used this language, and I very rarely use this sort of language, but I said BlackRock is evil, and he quit. We were at supper, and he quit eating and looked at me. I'm like, they're consuming everything and leaving nothing for the future. Mm-hmm. And he was like, well, they make good money. Well, yeah, they make good money. They're stealing all their fucking shit from everybody. They have no qualms stealing from the future. Yeah. None whatsoever. Anyway, I don't even know what we're doing. I don't even know what this podcast is going to be called or episodes. But I'm going to say this. Do I have hope? Yes. Do I think we have a bleak future in the near future?
Yes.
Yes. But the hope is that you become more and more spiritually astute as listeners. I can't tell you what that looks like. I mean, we'll talk about it in the future. We've talked about it in the past. If I were to suggest anything, it's, go listen to Ram Dass. I actually started listening to him.
Ram Dass is really good. Listen to Ram Dass, Sadhguru, Alan Watts.
Yeah, those three.
Especially if you are a Western thinking person.
Yeah. Also supplement all those with some Russell Brand.
Yes.
And also Rainn Wilson. Russell Brand, I like him because he has a political bent that I think helps me because I was very much into politics for the longest, and so me trying to figure out how to allow spirituality to influence my politics has been kind of difficult because I'm naturally anti-authoritarian. You're not going to tell me what the fuck to do, and I don't care if you're conservative or liberal. I don't give a shit. You're not going to tell me what to do. You're not going to tell me whether I can or cannot buy a gun. And you're also not going to tell me whether I can or cannot smoke weed. Not that I smoke weed, but you're not going to tell me that I can or can't. That's my business, not yours. There's a lot of things where I don't really fit left or right. If I had to fit anywhere, it's libertarian, if that makes any sense. No, not even middle of the road. Middle of the road is kind of what we got right now.
You're right.
It's not what I am. Anyway, so I think that's the reason why I've really started liking Russell Brand, because he's a spiritual guy. And if you can't catch him talking about the spirituality side of things, it's really, really good to listen to. But then also to understand that his spirituality influences his politics. He's changed his politics. He used to be really, really far left, and now he's not so far left. He's kind of libertarian.
One of the ladies that I do also like to listen to, she's a Christian mystic, but she's very leaning toward the mysticism part. Her name is Tara Brach, Tarabrach, Tara Brach, and she encourages meditation.
Yeah. Well, if we're going down that road, stuff that I listen to Christina Lopes.
Christina Lopes is amazing.
On YouTube.
Yes.
Also, what's her name? Something Alchemist. Hold on, I'm gonna look on YouTube and tell you what her name is.
The Alchemist.
Is it The Alchemist?
The Alchemist.
Yeah, the Alchemist. She's really good. I like her.
What about Infinite Waters? Do you listen to him? Infinite Waters. Diving deep.
I don't think I've
He'll
listened
say
to him.
breathe, and he'll tell. Right.
And then I tell you what, I'll start putting some stuff on in the show notes.
For you witchy folks, I've also been following recently. I found a lady. She's a 4th generation witch from the UK. Her name is Gina Matherall. And so for you witchy folk, if you're interested in that, she's got a lot of good positive content.
Yeah. I mean, I think hope. The hope is that you become more involved in your physical health, in your mental health, in your spiritual health, and not focus on any one more than the other.
Set boundaries.
Yeah.
Set emotional and mental boundaries. That when this shit goes sideways and people start panicking and getting into the panic, and you feel your energy just kind of panic, and you feel that anxiety building, learn to set those emotional mental boundaries and be like, I'm not going to participate in this.
Yeah. Anyway, and this has been a weird conversation,
but it was needful.
Yeah. It's
I think this is a transition episode because I think this is an episode of, what's the word I'm looking for? A landmark episode. I think this is a landmark episode to actually express who and what we really, really are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't want to move away from spirituality as a topic, but I'm getting to where I don't know that I can move spirituality away from a topic and not talk about the political implications of that to an extent.
Yeah.
In the end. So I've had a lot of conversations with several people this week, just in face to face, and that's my favorite thing to do, is to talk to people face to face and just have these conversations. One of the things that I've realized is that one of the awakening that I went through last year, while I don't open myself up to everyone, it's become more and more easy for me to open myself up and to, for lack of a better word, love others, right? Mm-hmm. To care, I guess, is probably a better way to put it, to care about others. So and it's funny because I've had some stuff happen the last few weeks that a certain individual that I deal with has kind of, not been what I would appreciate. I'm trying to be kind. And I'm not mad at them. I'm a year and a half ago, I would have came after them and with the goal to we're gonna make sure this never happens again.
Right.
These days, though, I look at that and I'm like, I understand that that's probably trauma from that person's background, yes, and I care. So with that, I've started realizing that my politics, no matter what I think and what I believe, cannot overshadow the love I have to have for other people.
Yes.
And I'm very rarely one of these guys that says you have to do X, Y, and Z, because I think that everybody has to choose their own path and figure out their own way and work out, in words of Christianity, Paul specifically, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. I think that's true. But I don't think you can do that without the second greatest commandment. Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
That's true.
The greatest is only next to that is love God with all your heart, soul, mind, right? Soul, spirit, whatever it is. Anyway, so, I've started realizing that my politics, while they are important because they influence the society of the world, they influence our civilization, good or bad, I have to realize that I can't allow my politics to become so important that I hate you because you don't believe like I do politically.
Amen, bro.
Hey,
dude, give him 10%.
we're going to take all your money again this week. We got to stay. I'm not an environmentalist because
but the earth is our neighbor.
I'm not an environmentalist in the sense that I don't believe that I should take a gun and force you to do something.
Correct.
I believe that the answer is not environmentalism with a gun. The answer is environmentalism where I train you to love the earth. And I explain to you why I love the earth and why it's a logical conclusion to love the earth. And then allow you as a business owner to determine what's the best course of action to ensure that, okay, you want to pursue this business, pursue it to the best of your ability. Understanding that you've got to take care of the earth and you got to take care of your people.
Yep.
And I think that's what we're missing. Yep. I think that society as a whole, left and right, have so used the government gun to get what they want, and they're all about consuming no matter what it looks like.
Yep.
They're all about raping the land no matter what it looks like, because we got to have that wood to build houses.
But there's no replenishing.
There's no replenishment.
There's no honor in it.
Exactly. And that's my thing. So I don't know if I've ever said this stuff on this podcast. Maybe I have, but I'm about to say it again because it's so important to me.
Get your tissues. Get your tissues. He's
no,
I'm not
going to start crying.
I'm sorry.
So love is quite possibly the greatest word in the world.
Yes.
Second to it, though, and almost as important to me, is honor. Mm-hmm. And when I look at honor, what is honor? To me, honor is this. I look at my grandfather on my mother's side, who we talked about earlier in this recording, that toiled in the land. Now, he also had a full-time job, but he was a farmer. He grew a farm, a rather
successful,
rather large in size farm, and he gave his blood and sweat and tears to that. For us to lose that land is a dishonor to him. Mm-hmm. If I go back further and I look at whether you no matter what side of the coin you fall on, those who died for us in World War II, if we don't honor them and we don't live our lives in such a way that honors those who went before us, whether that's the Spartans, whether that's Socrates, whether that's if you move forward, Abraham Lincoln, go back a little bit further, these people who went before us, and we stand on their shoulders and we see further because of them, but we don't honor them. We don't live our lives in such a way that we honor those who have went before us and died, and their blood is in the land. What about the guy that we don't even know, who died in the field somewhere? Nobody knows who he was. Nobody even knew he was dead. How can I live my life in such a way that honors that man that nobody has ever seen or heard of or even knows his name?
Who's buried out in the woods.
Yeah.
And whose marker has been washed away.
How do I honor those people? And then, so that's past. Then I look to the future. How can I honor, I've got a friend of mine at work. She has a 2-year-old. How can I live my life in such a way that honors that 2-year-old when he's 30? Mm-hmm. Or even further out, his kids? Or even further out, his grandkids?
Yeah.
That I'll never know because I barely know him. How do I live my life in such a way and act in such a way every day that my life is one of honor of the ones who went before me and gave their life so that I may have what I have right now? The ones who come behind me, where am I honoring them by taking the land and destroying it so they don't even know what a forest looks like? Mm-hmm. Do I honor them by consuming and stealing their parents' property because it's making me money because I am so greedy that I want that? Am I honoring them? No, I'm not. So how can I? And I can't make that determination for everybody. I can only make it for myself. But then I go, that's past and future. How can I live my life in a way that honors you, mm-hmm. and honors Duke, and honors, the people I love in real life? How do I live my life in a way that says, I love these guys? How can I live in such a way that inspires them not to be me, but be the better version of themselves?
That's right.
How can I be the guy that looks at someone and says, I want more for you than you think you're worth? because you don't even believe in yourself right now. That's okay. I believe in you until you can't. I believe in you until you're able to do so. But I also give you tools and encouragement and lift you up and hold you up and say, hey, it's okay to fall down and get emotional. It's okay to fall down and do these things that you don't want to do. It's okay. I got you.
Kindness. Yesterday I listened to a guy. He said kindness is giving somebody strength that they don't have. He said, so go out of your way and be kind to one another. To go be kind to somebody. And when we all fall, we all screw up. So whenever somebody falls and screws up around us, instead of reacting from our trauma or reacting from our negativity, we should react from kindness.
Yeah.
And respond to that person in kindness.
And in my mind, yes, kindness, but that's how I honor them.
Yep. I've been go ahead.
Maybe it's that I'm honoring the future them.
Yes.
Because there's certain people in my life now that I see who have greatness. The person I was talking about that I'm having a difficult issue with. I see greatness in that person.
Mm-hmm.
I see where they can go. I'm not sure I'm the person to help them get where they're going, but I see it in them, and I hope more for them than what they hope for themselves.
When a person gets to a negative point, what they're doing is they're telling the universe there's nothing here. There's nothing in me worth working with, and therefore the universe won't work with them. Right? Because if there's nothing to do, then the universe is not going to do.
Yeah.
So when you step out of your way and you become kind to somebody and you honor that person, regardless, when you honor that person, you're showing the universe that there is something here worth working on. And the universe will come in and build up and edify and work on that individual, for that individual to grow to become their greatest potential.
You say kindness, I like to say grace.
Grace.
Let's show grace to that person.
Grace. I like that. Unmerited favor is grace. So there is nothing there, but by showing the universe, hey, there is some potential here. Then the universe can come in and build that person up to their greatest potential.
Let me rephrase that again for you. They believe there's nothing there of themselves. I see greatness. And that's the other thing. I read something the other day. Surround yourself with people who believe you're better than what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll live up to that. You'll strive to become that better person. And it's not that you're a bad person right now, but sometimes being around people who, let me rephrase that. It was surround yourself for people who want more for you than what you think you're worth yourself.
Yes.
Because, sometimes that's all it takes for you to suddenly reach that higher level of whoever that is. And it's not that you're in a bad level now. It's just that someone hopes more for you than what you think you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's all it takes. Surround yourself by those people and you'll always be successful in some way.
Now, Scripture does say that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. And what that means is that the future offspring and your past ancestors, when you get into that state of meditation, or you get into that prayerful state, or you get into a spiritual state, what you do is you transcend time and space. And what you do is you step into an area within eternity, right? You step out of time and space where you are looking at offspring that you don't know that come from you, and you are also looking at people in your past, that is those of your dead family all the way back to your distant ancestors. And when you exist in that place and you get into that prayerful state, or you get into that spiritual mindset to where you transcend, then you can look at your ancestors and you can say thank you, and you can honor them. And then you can simultaneously, you can look at your future offspring and say, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better for you. To me, that's what spirituality is. Recently, I have been working with my ancestors and talking to my ancestors recently. And Nathan said it so perfectly. How do we do that? We do that by having a calm, prayerful, meditative mind to where we can get serious with who we are and get serious at looking at our ancestors and saying, thank you, and looking at our future offspring to say, I'm going to provide something better and greater
than what I have
right now.
Yeah. And what that does, and I think that's what we've lost, and I think that's the reason why civilization and society is in such turmoil now, is that the generation that went before me is the generation that said, it's all about me and mine. And instead of thinking, and what's bad is when you start thinking it's me and mine is only the people that's kin to me. But I don't think we can do that. I think we have to start living in a version of, like I was saying with quoting George Bernard Shaw, a community that we choose, that we can give all of our life to, and all of that we are to that life, to that community. Then we can honor those that are around us right now. So not only are we looking at, like you said, looking to the past and focusing in and saying thank you for what you've provided to me, and looking to the future and say I'm going to do better. I'm going to provide you with something better than what I have. Only when you're in community can you say I'm honoring those that I'm around. And how am I doing that? By being the most I'm giving of myself, my individuality. I'm giving of it to the fullness that I can, to the fullest degree that I can to my community. Yeah. And you know what happens in that case when you're in a community is you get that love 100-fold back.
Exactly.
Because people are appreciative. One of the things I like about my current job is that, I work in IT. I think I've said that a couple of times.
Just mentioned that one or two times.
I work in IT, and the problem is, Duke's over here making noises or making faces. The problem in IT is it's a thankless job. Mm-hmm. People don't understand that. I literally had someone jump on me one time. Like, this is no lie. I walked by their computer and it broke when I walked by, and they thought I did something to it. Like, I'm literally walking. Like, I didn't even. And they were like, "What'd you do to my computer?" They were serious. "What'd you do to my computer?"
That's superstitious, bro.
It's computers, I think, have brains of their own at times. Anyway, so a lot of times, other than other IT people, most people are not appreciative of IT people.
Right. They
just don't understand. Especially when I first started, people really didn't fully understand computers. Still that way a lot, but the good thing about my job now is that my ability is appreciated. Mm-hmm. The things I do, people truly appreciate it. And there's a difference there. You start realizing that the love that you receive because of your talent in a small community is going to be more poignant or more powerful or more incoming than if you're in a large, let's say, corporation where you've got 50 IT people, mm-hmm. and your identity doesn't stand out. And that's what you're looking at when you start getting into, we need to move into the cities. Because
you become a number.
Yeah, you're just a person.
When you go into someplace bigger, you become a number.
Yeah.
When you have a tribe, you become an individual.
Yeah, and your individuality proceeds.
Yeah.
Or persists, not proceeds. Anyway, that's I don't even know what we're gonna call these episodes.
Shotgun episode.
Yeah.
We'll call it Shotgun episode 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, maybe. Started kinda. I don't know. I may even call it.
I've had fun this episode.
Yeah.
This recording. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it went a little bit different than I expected, because I'll be the first one to say I had no clue what we were going to come in here and talk about. I had no plans. Normally we have a topic that we want to talk about, and we've both thought about it. And
Nathan does not follow that topic whatsoever.
Hey, I did go with evolution. I mean, reincarnation.
He didn't even know what to call it.
Hey, get in the mic. Nobody can hear you. Which is not a bad thing if nobody hear you. Anyway, it's just, the hope is, if we go back to that, give yourself to your community. to a purpose that you choose, and do so with all that you got. Not because you need anything in return. That's the other thing that I've learned. I'm not going to do this because I want return on my giving. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give because I want to give, and if I don't get it back, that's okay. And what I find is when you give like that, you get it back more than what you'd ever know. You know, when you love unconditionally, that is returned. And what's funny is sometimes it's returned in such a way that you don't even know that it's being returned. It's returned in a way that the other individual decides to return it.
When you are involved with authentic people, that return will take place.
Yeah.
If you love in a non-authentic community, then it's prostitution. They will pull from you and not give back.
Oh, yeah.
They will take the intimacy and not give anything back.
Yeah. But you know, but that's one thing, you know, don't always think that the way you love is the way they love.
Correct.
You know, that's the, you know, just you know, the hope is that you find your community and become close knit and you know, just be there for them. Be yourself.
And we hope that's what we provide as a pub, is we provide a place for you to sit at the table. And I listened to a friend of mine called me the other day, and he was like, dude, I just want to say that I've enjoyed your podcast. He said, it reminds me of the time that we all used to sit around a table and drink coffee. And in fact, while he's listening to the podcast, he actually talks back to us, just like he would if he's sitting at the table live. So that's pretty cool. We want to say thank you to all of our listeners.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our heart, and we want you to enjoy sitting at the table at Pub.
Yeah, and if we might ask, like, share, give us some topics. You know, let us know how we're doing. I mean, we want to hear it. If you go to the website, https:// hopefully you know how to do all that. I'm an IT guy, and I just assume everybody knows how to do it. Rettals, RETTALS .pub, PUB. We've got a place where you can contact us. You can give us some topics. You can we have a survey out that you can take. No one has taken it yet, so be the first. I can't give you anything. You just be the first. I tell you what, if you'll be the first one, I will announce your name, if you want me to, in the next podcast.
Awesome.
You know, if you want to, you know, want us to talk about something specific, just let us know. We'll
be glad to research it and talk about it.
We'll start off that way, then I'll take off on a rabbit trail.
Nate, the greatest, whatever, the greatest Nate.
The great Nate.
Nate.
Why do you make it so hard?
Because I'm ADD and I don't know, man.
It's not that hard.
Oh my God.
Great, and Nate rhymes with great.
I guess because it rhymes, it throws me off, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it would. You're not a poet.
I can't even speak properly. But please contact us. Get involved. Send us some comments, and we'd be glad to chat about it.
Yep. So check us out.
And remember, you're loved.